Today I want to talk about something that's really important to anybody who drives their vehicle off-road or really on the road too, and that's tires. But I'm not really concerned so much about what tire is best for what situation or what brand of tire is the best. What I want to talk about today is tire sizes and how to figure out how big your tires actually are. We're going to do this with the magic of some help from Google Sheets. So not only are we going to talk about tire sizes and what those sizes mean, but I'm going to show you how to build a tire size calculator too, so that you can have a full spreadsheet full of all the tire sizes you'll ever need to know. We're going to start out by opening up Google Chrome, and we want to type into our address bar up here sheets.new. Whenever you do that, Google presents you with a brand new clean, empty spreadsheet. We can close this stuff out of here. So let's talk about the sizes on those tires. Whenever you look at the side of a tire, you might see some kind of a number like 225, 65, R, and 17. All right. So what are those numbers? Well, the first number, this 225, is going to be what they call the tread width, or how far it is from one sidewall of the tire to the other. And this is going to be measured in millimeters. The next number is going to be an aspect ratio. So this is the height of the tire, the height of the sidewall to the width between the sidewalls, so the tread width. The last number, the 17, in this case, is going to be the size of the wheel in inches. So just to label these, I'm going to put tread width in here. We'll say ratio and wheel diameter. Not wheel size, but wheel diameter, because a wheel can be various different widths, just like a tire can be. All right. So to do the calculation, one of the things that we need to do is convert our tread width into inches. So we need to convert millimeters to inches. So 1 inch is equal to 25.4 millimeters, right? All right, so to calculate how tall this tire is going to be, we can go anywhere on here. Let's just go here. How about we do this? Tire height, and we'll just do the calculation right here. All right, so we're going to start out with an equal sign. That tells Sheets that you're doing a calculation. And because we have to do this calculation kind of in a couple of different parts, we're going to start out with some parentheses here. We'll do one calculation within the parentheses, and then we'll add the wheel diameter outside of the parentheses. All right, so we're going to start with the tread width here. And now we need to divide that by 25.4 because there are 25.4 millimeters in an inch, and we want to get that tread width converted to inches. So then multiply that by the aspect ratio, which in this case is 0.65, because remember that aspect ratio is expressed as a percentage, even though we don't see the percent sign on there. So rather than multiplying it by 65, we multiply it by 0.65. And then we have to multiply that number by 2 because there's a top and a bottom sidewall. Remember, that aspect ratio is just for one sidewall. So we had the top one on the top of above the wheel and the bottom one below the wheel. That's 2 of them. And then after this, we want to add in that wheel diameter. So we'll add in that 17. Then we hit the enter key, and we see that gives us a tire height of 28.52 inches. Now let's get rid of some of the decimal places. There we go, 28.52. All right, so that's all well and good, right? You can come in here and change these numbers out, and it updates your calculation over here. But this is kind of a slow way of doing things, right? So maybe you want to do something more like have a matrix that shows a lot of different tire sizes. Let's talk about how to do that real quick. All right, so common tire sizes start at about, 185 on the width. and then they go up by 5 millimeter increments from there. So we can put in these two, just type in 185 and 190 in these two cells. Then we can just drag down from here. What this will do is it'll increment by 5. It'll automatically put all these in up to however far we want to go. So let's go up to about 325. I think that's a pretty normal tire width maximum that most people would be interested in. And then let's talk about the aspect ratios. So let's start at about 50 on that. We may see some that are a little bit lower than that for some of the like sports cars and that kind of stuff, but we're talking about off-road tires, so let's start at 50 there. We'll go 55 and then the same kind of thing, and we'll go up to about 85 doing this. All right, so we've got over here on the side, we use this little button right here, we can merge these cells, and we can say tread width. Okay, and we can put that in the middle, and we can turn this text up like this. Oop, put that in the middle, put it in the middle like this. There we go. Align it to the right, there we go. So now we can see that left column is our tread width. And let's just insert a column right here to get a little bit more, insert a row, get a little bit more space. We'll merge this, center it up, and we'll call this aspect ratio. There we go. Bold that, bold that. All right, so now we have a whole list of tread widths and we have a list of aspect ratios. So let's talk about how to do the math on this. So over here at the top, we made this calculation where we reference some of these cells, like E1 here for the tread width, and then I guess I typed in 0.65 for the aspect ratio because we were doing some quick conversion of that. So let's talk about how we can set this up to automatically build all of the formulas from one cell. So we're going to type that equals key again to start off with, and we're going to select our open parentheses in there, and then we want to select our tread width cell. So that's going to be cell E6 right here. But what's different about this is we want to use an absolute reference on this cell or on this calculation. So to do that, you can either type in the $sign in there, or you can just hit the F4 key. So if you hit the F4 key once, you'll see that those $2 signs get put in there. That means that is an absolute cell reference. And if you drag this formula, whichever way you drag it, copy and paste it, whatever, it's always going to refer to cell E6. But we don't want it to always refer to cell E6, but we do want it to always refer to column E. So if we hit that F4 key again, we'll see that $sign disappears from the E and goes to the 6. So that's saying that row 6 is the absolute reference. But that's not what we want. So we hit it one more time, puts the $sign in front of the E. So that means that anytime we copy this calculation anywhere else, it's going to be looking at column E. And then the row that it's looking at will change depending on where that formula is. Okay, so we've got that in there. Now we need to divide by 25.4 to convert it to inches, like we talked about before. And then we need to multiply it by the aspect ratio. So if we use the asterisk right there, we can then select our aspect ratio up here. And again, I need to make that an absolute reference on the row on this one rather than the column. So I'll hit the F4 key twice to make it an absolute row reference, but a dynamic or a relative column reference. And then we divide that by 100 because we're talking about a percentage instead of the whole number there. And then we need to also multiply that by 2 because we're dealing with 2 tire sidewalls, the top and bottom. And then we want to add in the tire diameter. All right, and so whenever I type that formula in there, it automatically fills everything in here for us. But let's back up just a second here. I had to type in this 17 for the tire diameter, right? That's not exactly the best way to do this calculation. So let me show you something. Let me do a little bit of trickery here, show you what to do. So say we want to have a cell that we fill out, like maybe we can't decide if we want a 16-inch, 17, 18-inch wheel, whatever. We need to put a cell in there so we can quickly change the one value and it updates all the different formulas. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's what we call a named range. All right, so we're just gonna put in wheel diameter here to kind of label this cell. But we're gonna put our number in right there, so that's our wheel diameter. Now while we have this cell selected, we can go to data and then come down here to named ranges and then add a range. And see, since we have G4 selected already, this is already referencing sheet 1 G4. And we're going to call this, we want to give it a name, a familiar name that we can reference later in the formula. You can use pretty much whatever you want, but you can't use spaces here. So we'll type in here, wheel diameter here. There we go. So now we can use wheel diameter as a named range in our formulas. So let's go back over here to this formula that we just made. And right here where this was 17 before, let's delete that and let's start to type in wheel diameter. And you see it comes up right here with the IntelliSense. We can just click on wheel diameter. It fills it in for us. And you see that it's blue text, meaning that it's referencing a named range. So you hit enter and you'll see that we get the exact same calculations. Now, because those other formulas were already in there, it didn't automatically update. But if you click and drag that blue dot there in the bottom right corner, it'll update everything. We won't see any changes here because the result of the formula or the result of the calculation didn't change. But now what we can do is take this first cell and we can drag this across, and so now the formulas will update based on the aspect ratio as they go across the table here. And now we can drag this down, drag it down to the bottom here, and it fills in all those cells with all the relative formulas to make the calculation based on the tread width and the aspect ratio. So that's pretty cool. So now you've got a big table of all the tire heights based on tread width, aspect ratio, and a 17-inch wheel. Now, like I was saying earlier, maybe you don't know if you want a 17-inch wheel, maybe you want to find out about 18-inch wheels, right? So you just come back up in here to this wheel diameter cell, change that to 18, boom, all your calculations update. So now you can see what height, how tall every tire is with every tread width and aspect ratio. And these are, of course, just, close numbers. Every manufacturer has a little bit of a variation from all this. So that's pretty cool stuff right there, right? It's a little bit hard to see, but we can do a couple of things to fix this. So what I'm going to do is select that first formula again. I'm going to shift click in this bottom right formula. So what that does is it selects all of those cells. Now I want to go up to format, and I want to go to conditional formatting right here. And so what I can do here is I want to change this from format rules to custom formula. In the custom formula, we want to, not custom formula, we want to say is between. And so in here is let's say you're looking for a tire that's roughly 33 inches. So you want to look at something that's like 32.5 all the way up to 33.5 inches. Well, if you use this conditional formatting, it'll highlight everything in that table that meets that condition. So if you want a tire between 32.5 and 33.5 inches, this shows you which ones that meet that criteria. So now you can look at this and you say, okay, this is a 33.06 inch tire. So that's a 255, 75, 18. So now you can go down to the tire store, order your tire at 255, 75, 18, and you know it's what you're looking for. You know it'll be a 33-inch tire-ish. All right. So that's pretty cool, right? You can highlight exactly what you're looking for. You can go back in there and change that. But it's still a little bit of work to do something like that, right? So why don't we do something a little bit more clever? So why don't we make more of these named ranges where you can change not only your wheel diameter, but you can put in a minimum and a maximum tire height that you're looking for. So let's do this. We'll say min tire height. We'll do max tire height. Okay. I'm going to align those to the right. And then we're going to do the named ranges again. So we select the cell, data, named ranges. I'll add one here. We'll call this min height. Go down to the next one, add range, max height. Okay, so now we have a min and a max in here that we're looking for. 2 decimal places is about what we might want on that, so that's good. So we can do, say, 32.25 if we're looking for, a 32-inch tire. Okay, so now we've got to update our formula here, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky, a little bit confusing. But stick with me, we'll get through it, and we can always change this. What I do. All right, so we want to go back to our conditional formatting. And you see here we have this rule that's already in place, but we want to click on this. We want to leave that as in between. No, we want to leave that. But what we want to do this time is instead of putting a hard-coded number in here, we want to put in a formula. So, we just added these named ranges up here, so we can use those named ranges in our conditional formatting rules. But this is a little bit tricky, and it's not as straightforward as you might think it would be. In here, we want to type equals to start a formula. And we want to use a function called indirect. Okay? And indirect calls for an argument within parentheses. And in this case, it's a named range, so it has to be in quotation marks as well. So in here, we'll do min height, and you'll notice it doesn't come up with the IntelliSense for you on this one like the other one did, or like it did whenever you're making a formula in the cell. Okay, so that's going to be our minimum. Then our maximum is going to be max height. And you see it already updated all the cells in here for us as we were typing this in, so we know that it's working. All right, so now if I close this out, and if I close that out, and if I back out just a little bit here, hopefully you guys can still see this. Now I can come in here and say, I want to look for a 32.7 to a 33.1 inch tire. And it updates, shows you everything that meets that criteria. So if we want to look at a 16-inch wheel, same height tire, it shows us what our options are there. All right, so I hope you guys learned something today. I hope that this was helpful. If you want, I'll make this spreadsheet available for download. And yeah, see you next time.